Next up on our list of ways you can optimize is through score. Now the thing about score is that almost always it's based off of some other metric or series of metrics, such as score is based off of time, score is based off of kills, score is based off of a multiplier and kills, or score is based off of accuracy. All sorts of different things, but score by itself generally has no meaning or implementation by itself, which because of that makes it rather difficult to optimize or give good examples of ways of optimizing for score.
In most cases, games with score metrics are sort of soft limit, even though there are a couple of exceptions. But a good example of a soft limit score metric or score game would be something like Desktop Tower Defense 1.5. The maximum score for hard mode, for example, is somewhere around 10,600, maybe a little bit higher than that. But the reason why we know this is because there's a certain score effect based on how quickly you send the enemy waves or how many lives you're able to conserve. And even though the strategy of the game relies heavily on how you build your maze, how you conserve your costs, we know that there's a certain realistic limit to how many enemy waves you can send at a given time and be able to survive. And we're able to see this over time through hundreds and thousands of different people playing these games. For a game like Desktop Tower Defense, the optimization relies almost entirely on how you manage your maze and your waves. But sometimes there are sort of hard limits. For example, if you play the 100 mode in Desktop Tower Defense, there is a hard limit to it because time has no bearing on your score. It's entirely off of how many lives you have and how far you get. Another example of a hard limit game based on score would be something like Rhythm Fireworks 1 and 2. And the score in this game depends entirely on how long you can maintain your combo. And so if you're able to hit every single arrow in this game, you will get the max score, and there's really no debate there. You can't do any better than that.
As opposed to something like Stepmania, where the goal is still to hit every single arrow, but if you do that, there's still an accuracy component, whether you're hitting perfects or greats to keep your combo
or
up.
Marvelous, even.
Yeah. And as well as that, the score also depends upon where in the song you're getting those perfects, marvelouses, greats. If you get more perfects and marvelouses later in the song, those are worth more than the corresponding same number of arrows early in the song. So it's definitely the only hard cap for there is getting all of the marvelouses or whatever your highest score metric, your accuracy metric is. Otherwise than that, it's just you're approaching that hard limit. And in most songs on that game, it's basically impossible to achieve that hard limit. Moving along to third on our list is moves optimization. We talked about it slightly with our Open Doors 2 for hard time, but in this instance we're going to talk about puzzle games that have no time component at all, strictly moves. And generally speaking, moves optimization is going to be hard capped. There's going to be some perfect way of doing something in a puzzle game that will have the fewest number of moves.
A good example of this that you might remember from a recent badge on Congregate, for example, would be something like Exorbis 2. On Exorbis 2, the idea of the game is to sort of move all the orbs or spheres, whatever you want to call them, into the light receptacles. And there's a certain limit to each level called like the ACE score for the minimum number of moves to achieve that ACE score. And in terms of optimization, we found that these ACE scores are actually not always the best solution. There have been many times where we'll find a more elegant or shorter solution and completely, shatter the ACE score, or like the par number for the ACE score on a given level. Like for example, the very last level, Yottabyte and myself collaborated on the moves optimizations. We were able to break the ACE score by about like 150 moves or something like that. It was way below. And the idea there is that again, don't go into a game assuming that a given limit is the best you can do. You can always try to find a better solution. And normally for puzzle games with limits such as this, it's especially useful to talk with other people and try to devise solutions and shortest paths and that sort of thing. Lightbot would be another good example of a game that has a sort of move limit component to it. In this game, hence the name Lightbot, you're a bot and you move around trying to light blue squares. And the way that you do this is you're using sort of functions in this game of different types of movements, whether it's moving forward, back, turning, lighting a light bulb, whatever. And so the fewest functions that you use, the fewest move macros that you use, the better your score. And again, this is a sort of game where you definitely want to collaborate with others to try to figure out where you can cut corners and get rid of extraneous moves and things of that nature. For example, I worked with Zaris and Fubel, I believe his name is. I'm sorry if I screwed that up. And a third party as well. We would all sort of talk in a chat and try to determine where we could sort of improve on each other's methods. And sometimes we'd come up with completely different ways of achieving a certain move cap on a level. But after examining each other's solutions, we'd find interesting ways to do certain parts of it and integrate our solutions together, and through a sort of synergy, we'd figure out an even better solution.
I think the same thing holds true for a game like Codex of Alchemical Engineering. Same exact principle. It's very similar in that it's a programming-based game. So working with everyone else, I know there's a huge, huge thread on Congregate, and a game like that has multiple different factors that you can optimize on as well. Time, number of functions used, 4 or 5 different metrics.